Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, and welcome back. This is Thursday, September the 5th of 2013, and great to be back on the air again this week. And just before I introduce my first guest this evening, I've got two guests tonight. One will be joining me a little bit later in the program. I just want to extend another apology on the air for last week, as most of you that tuned in know that we'd had some technical difficulties and had some distortion in that, and I think we've got that resolved for this evening. But I just wanted to apologize to the executives of Ontic Golf, who were my guests last week, Mr. Bernie Pinder and Dr. Greg Ortman, and also Mr. Barry Goldstein, who were on there, just for the difficulties. I'm glad that they bared and stuck it out with me, but I'm certainly going to have them back on the show in the months or so to come, and give them another opportunity to come in and talk about Ontic Golf and the great line of putters that they carry there. But I just wanted to again extend that apology to the gentlemen for the technical difficulties that we experienced last week. I'm really excited this week. As I said, I've got two guests on tonight. The first one is an author of a very interesting book. He contacted me just a few short weeks ago and sent me a copy of the book, and it really kind of caught my eye. And I'll bring him out here in just a second, but his name is Jim Ducibellaauthor, and the book he wrote was called King of Clubs, The Great Marathon of 1938. And I'm not going to give you too much information up front because I really want him to come on here and talk a little bit about it, get some of the background and so forth. But it just really kind of resonated with me. I haven't finished the book quite entirely yet, so I don't even know how it ends, but a very interesting story. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring him out here and let him do the talking. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Ted, thanks a million. Nice to be on.
That's great. Listen, Jim, you and I, of course, we talked last evening on the phone before tonight's program, so we kind of had a little bit of an idea what we were going to do here. And as I just said to you a few minutes ago off air, one of the things that I want to really emphasize here on the program, Golf Talk Live, is I want to be able to, bring some interesting, not only teaching professionals and things of that nature to the program, but I also want to, when I come across some interesting books, and yours certainly fell well into that category, I want to bring them onto the program and give them an opportunity to share with the listening audience their story and so forth, and that's why I wanted to bring you this evening, Jim. And the first question I've got for you really is what attracted you to this story?
Well, I wrote a book on the history of golf in Virginia 13 long years ago, and toward the end of that process, a friend of mine slipped me a note about Smith Ferebee, this crazy Virginian, originally from Princess Anne County, Virginia, now known as Virginia Beach, who in September of 1938 attempts to play 600 holes of golf over 4 consecutive days in 8 different cities, starting in Los Angeles and ending in New York. And, I thought to myself, is there a soul alive today? And Ferebee, by the way, was a country club player. We're talking a 15 handicap. Right. Is there a soul alive today who would attempt such a bet? Ferebee put the equivalent of a $1.6 million on the table. Would anybody, Tiger, Phil, Jack, Arnie, right, would anybody attempt to play, as in walk, 600 holes of golf over 4 consecutive days in 8 different cities, starting in Los Angeles and ending in New York? And I mean, to me, the unabashed answer was no. None of these guys who've got millions of dollars to burn would attempt such a stunt, such a feat. And here's a guy who was a stockbroker and by 1938 standards relatively wealthy, who put his own money in the form of land and cash up on the line. And I didn't want the story to fade away. And I didn't write the book in order to preserve history, as some of the reviewers have stated, more than kindly. But by the same token, it's a story that would have been forgotten if I hadn't have dug through the piles of information that I did dig through. And I'm thrilled to have been the one to have brought it to the attention of the reading public. I just thought that this was so unique that the story had to be told, the story had to be preserved.
Right. And let me just back up for a little bit, just so that we can sort of lay it out for the listeners here. What exactly was the bet?
Well, in August of 1938, there were two gentlemen, Smith Ferebee and Fred Turk. Both were stockbrokers in Chicago, and they co-owned approximately 300 acres of land in Virginia Beach. Ferebee had been born and raised adjacent to the property. Fred Turk was a businessman from Chicago who had never seen Virginia Beach, but he was friends with Ferebee, and he went in to co-own this 300 acres of land. Mm-hmm. They receive an offer to buy the land, and Ferebee doesn't want to sell. Turk, who is a businessman, wants to sell. Amazingly and ultimately, the only way they can decide to settle this disagreement is for Turk to challenge Ferebee to play 144 holes of golf in one day at Olympia Fields Country Club in Chicago, where Ferebee is a member. Amazingly enough, Ferebee does it. A couple of days later, he is invited to be a guest on Ripley's Believe It or Not radio program, which at the time is tied with Jack Benny basically in the ratings as the most listened to program in the United States of America. There is no television in 1938.
Right.
Ferebee's on a Monday night, and he no sooner finishes, and there is what I call a tsunami of golf marathons played by people all across the United States. You have to remember, Ted, it was 1938, the Depression. Unemployment was at 20%. A loaf of bread cost 9 cents, and there were lots and lots and lots of people in America who couldn't afford to buy an entire loaf of bread. So these people are out there playing 150, 160, 180 holes of golf. They're not walking as Ferebee did at Olympia Fields. They're not playing golf courses the caliber that Ferebee played at Olympia Fields. But the Chicago newspapers are picking up all of these stories and republishing them. And Turk reads these stories. And Fred Turk was a man who stood about 6'3" and weighed about anywhere, depending on what he had for lunch, between 250 and 300 pounds. And Turk says to him, "I thought you told me this was hard, this 144 holes. This is easy. Everybody and his brother is playing more than 144 holes." So finally, in conjunction with the air conditioning magnate Reuben Train, they come up with a plan that Ferebee, in order to maintain the 300 acres of land, must play 600 holes of golf over 4 consecutive days, starting in Los Angeles and ending in New York, September 25 to September 28, 1938. So we're coming up on the 75th anniversary. How does Reuben Train get involved? He's a client of Ferebee's, and coincidentally, he has just invented something called the TurboVac, which in the simplest layman's terms is a commercial air conditioning unit whose parts are small enough to enable the unit to be placed on the roof of an automobile dealership or a movie theater, as opposed to taking up valuable space inside the office complex. He wants to advertise that. He comes to Ferebee and Turk and says, "I will rent for you an American Airlines DC-3 Sky Sleeper to take you from city to city if you will allow me to come along and to promote my product." And the three of them, in addition to a couple of PR guys, somehow put together this crazy bet of 600 holes, 4 consecutive days, 8 different cities, starting in L.A. and ending in New York.
Well, and the interesting thing, too, about this, and just to put things in perspective, I mean, forgetting for a moment the number of holes, he walked all of the holes. This is not like he was being chauffeured around in a golf cart or something to that degree. He walked, if not ran, in between many of the holes, if not all.
Well, the golf cart hadn't been invented in 1938,
exactly.
And so part of the caveats of the bet were that Ferebee had to walk every hole. He could not be assisted by his caddies or 4 caddies in any way. He had to remove every putt from the hole and he had to tee up every tee shot on the next hole. Otherwise, he would lose the bet. And if he faltered on any of those, even on one hole, he would lose the entire 296 acres of land, which at the time was valued at about $100,000, and today is $1.6 million. So yes, he ran or walked the equivalent of about 182 miles over the course of 4 days.
Now, how many? And this was, I found this a little tidbit very interesting as well. Is out of the 600 holes that he played, how many golf balls did he lose?
He didn't lose any.
Exactly.
He didn't lose a single golf ball, and people have misconstrued that during the course of the book to mean that he played the same ball for all 600 holes. He did not do that, but he did not lose a single golf ball, and I know that because the only person still alive from the bet was the then 18-year-old kid, Art Casquetta, who caddied for him for most of the holes, not all 600. And Art told me that the night before the marathon began, he went to Walgreens and bought 3-4 dozen golf balls, anticipating that Ferebee would lose any number of balls, but that he never lost a single golf ball.
Wow. And obviously, you know, as a golf teacher professional, I know even from my own experience that just even playing 18 holes, you know, on my own or you know, dealing with students and things like that, that's not an easy task. I mean, we've all had experience where we've lost golf balls, and so you have to sort of put this in perspective. It's not like we're talking 600 holes over, you know, several months. We're talking over a 4-day stretch. So, you know, you have things like, you know, his anxiety, I'm sure, had built up and adrenaline going and things like that. So you're not always going to hit a pure shot. And being a 15 handicapper, you know, he's not always hitting them straight down the middle of the fairway like some of your top teaching professionals.
No, and he wasn't playing what, you know, we would euphemistically call cow pastures. He began the marathon at Lakeside Country Club in Burbank, which is the home to the stars. Crosby, Hope, W.C. Fields were among the founding members of Lakeside. He moved from that point in Burbank on September 25 to Encanto in Phoenix, which is a public golf course that still exists today, the third golf course ever built in the state of Arizona. Imagine that. The next day was Kansas City and St. Louis, Blue Hills, which has been the scene of several professional tournaments, and Norwood Hills, which is a historical landmark in the city of St. Louis,
right?
And where Tom Watson met his caddy Bruce, whose last name escapes me, Bruce Edwards, I guess. Right. The late caddy Bruce Edwards. The next day was Milwaukee and Chicago, Tuckaway, a well-known place for not only PGA but senior PGA tournaments. Olympia Fields, which has hosted 2 or 3 U.S. Opens, and then the last day, North Hills in Philadelphia, and Salisbury Country Club on Long Island, which at the time was known as Eisenhower Red. Excuse me, just the opposite. It's known as Eisenhower Red today, which has been the scene of several senior golf tournaments, senior PGA tournaments. So he wasn't playing bad golf courses by any stretch. He was short, he was straight, and he maintained that during the course of 4 days.
Right, and again, just to, you know, sort of put things in perspective, I mean, you know, I've over the years, I mean, I certainly don't do it as much now, but when I was younger, I mean, it wasn't uncommon for my friends and I to, when we were a little bit younger and less winded out, you know, we might play 2 18s, and if we were really assertive, we might play 3 18s in the course of a day. But we certainly didn't do that back to back to back to back. And, you know, I just sort of did the quick math the other night when I was reading the book, and, you know, you're talking about 34 rounds of golf.
Yeah, basically one of the provisos was that he had to play a minimum of 144 holes a day. Now, the first day he played 160 in Burbank and 147 or so in Phoenix because he was on the west coast of the United States. And as he moved across country toward the east, he finally made up those 600 holes. Yeah, I mean, this was a sheer endurance test. He began playing generally at 5:30 in the morning, sometimes under the spotlights of the local fire department. And certainly he played until about 10 to 10:30 at night, very definitely under the lights of the local fire department, particularly in Phoenix, St. Louis, Chicago, and then at the very end on Long Island.
Now, with obvious exceptions, a bathroom break here and there, do you know offhand from any of the research you did, like did he stop at all? As far as obviously he would have to eat at some point. Did he stop for any sort of meal, or was he sort of eating on the fly, or do you know that information?
No, he actually irritated the flight crew of the DC-3 by stopping in St. Louis. He fell down a hill in St. Louis under cover of darkness and sprained his knee quite severely. But one of the provisos of the bet was once you started, you had to finish or you lost. And he stopped in St. Louis that evening, the evening of the 26th, and had dinner with the caddies and the four caddies who had worked with him. And the pilot of the DC-3 was livid because they had this very precise timetable that they were trying to adhere to. But Ferebee stopped and ate dinner with these guys, and it caused them to get into Milwaukee so late that the Milwaukee airport was closed for the night, and they had to turn around and go back to Chicago, to Midway, which was open, I guess, I don't know if it was open 24 hours, but it was open late enough for them to land the airplane and then the next morning to refuel and to head back to Milwaukee. Crazy things. He had a couple of other dinners that were far less hectic than the one in St. Louis, but he also did eat on the run. He had umpteen four caddies that worked with him. This was incredibly well planned out. They had about a month from the time the bet was issued to the time that the marathon actually took place. And I'll give these guys all due credit. They thought of everything. The number of four caddies that they had, the meals. A DC-3 Skysleeper actually was a fully equipped airplane in which the stewardess was able to cook meals on board the plane. And so once he got on the plane at 10 or 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, the stewardess, whose name was Lillian Fetty, would cook a meal for the 14 or 18 people who were on board.
Amazing. How would you describe – now, I kind of get a sense, and we talked about this as well, but tell me a little bit about his character. What type of person was Smith Ferebee?
Well, he was forged by his father and by other people to be someone who never backed down from a bet. And he was raised in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and at a relatively early age, he and his father would jump into the Atlantic Ocean and would swim 4.5 miles from 24th or 28th Street, where they were located, to Fort Story. And there was an island beach at Fort Story, Virginia, that at the time was open to the public. And they would swim the 4.5 miles through the current of the Atlantic, come up on the island beach, stay for 15 minutes to a half an hour, sort of recharge their batteries, get back in the ocean and swim back the additional 4.5 miles. And they did this several times a week. And he was, the youngest of four brothers, and he was the only one that his father put through this regimen. And I think it taught him to never back down from any challenge. There's a portion in the book where he's having lunch with George Halas back in the early 1930s, and Halas is reading a story to him out of one of the 8 Chicago newspapers about a man who had just spent 10 minutes in a pool in Chicago with his hands and feet tied behind his back. And Ferebee was furious that this was enough of a hook to make the newspaper. 10 minutes in a pool with your hands and feet tied behind your back. And he tells George Halas, I'll tell you right now, you come back in a half an hour and I'll spend 30 minutes in that pool with my hands and feet tied behind my back, and I'll swim laps. And Halas was incredulous. But he did. But Ferebee came back later. They tied his hands and feet behind his back, and he swam laps for a half an hour in this Olympic-sized pool. The day that Olympia Fields opened its Olympic-sized pool, about July or early August of 1938, Ferebee took an enormous amount of money out of his fellow club members' pockets by bragging that he could swim 1,000 laps of the Olympia Fields pool. Nobody thought he could do it, but Ferebee got in and he swam 1,000 laps. So here was a guy that, as far as athletics was concerned, there was no challenge too great, and there was no challenge that he ever backed away from. And there were people in his entourage, people who were friends of his, who, when the 600-hole marathon was proposed to him, told him, "You have got to be out of your mind to take this on," and he wouldn't back down.
Well, it almost reminds me, really, when you and I can sort of just visualize him in my mind. And obviously, I know you have a picture of him in the book, but in fact, on the cover. But what it reminds me a little bit almost of Howard Hughes, same type of, and I don't mean later on in Howard's life, but that type of spirit of adventure. And Howard was very much like that. He had a lot of advisors around him, and quite often when he would propose something, everybody sort of around him in his inner circle would try and talk him under it. But he just, again, wanted to rise to that challenge. And Ferebee reminds me a little bit. I mean, obviously the stories are different, but that same type of personality, that sort of spirit of adventure, and no mountain is too high for me to climb. And really, that's a great attitude, and that's probably why he enjoyed the success he did throughout his life.
Well, I think the canvases are different, obviously, between Howard Hughes and Smith Ferebee. He reminds me, and I have no evidence to back this up, but to me, he's the original Walter Mitty. He's the guy that takes on any challenge and survives. Not only survives, but wins these challenges hands down. And he and Hughes embody a spirit that really, in all honesty, sadly, doesn't exist today, at least not in the United States. We have to remember that in 1938, television didn't exist. There were, I don't even know how many radio stations or how many radio networks there were. I do know that KMOX in St. Louis was a 50,000-watt station even back in 38 that was so powerful and had so little interference that you could hear it in Europe. And so when Ferebee landed in St. Louis on the September 26, 1938, and KMOX did an interview with him, it was heard across the Atlantic into Europe. I mean, today that wouldn't have gotten past New Jersey, for heaven's sakes. There's so many radio stations and so many other things. And so people were forced to make up their own sets of challenges, their own sets of entertainment, their own sets of things that would separate them from, if you will, the rank-and-file citizen. And Ferebee was very much a part of that, not only in his early years. He was 32 at the time of the marathon, but even later in his life when he took on more cerebral challenges after moving back to the state of Virginia.
Right. And I don't mean to suggest that their personalities were the same in that respect, but and obviously they're not cut from the same cloth, but just that sort of, as I said, the spirit of adventure and just not really willing to back down from a challenge. I mean, if you look at the life of Howard Hughes, he was very much like that. Again, I know there were a lot of differences, of course, but as you said, that type of spirit, if you will, doesn't seem to be as evident in today's society. Very, very few people that I could, in fact, I can't even think of anybody off the top of my head right now that would even encapsulate that. But let me ask
Diana
you,
Nyad might be, in all honesty, to pick a name from the most recent news, Diana Nyad might be that type of individual. How many times did she attempt to swim from Havana to Florida or back and forth? But you're right, they're in scarce supply today.
Well, I just think for some reason, there's not the desire in that. And that was what really, again, attracted me to this book. Obviously, it's very, very well written, and I strongly urge my listeners to get a copy. We're going to tell you in a little bit how to get that. But just for those of you that have maybe tuned in a little bit throughout the broadcast, my special guest this evening, my first guest, is Jim Ducibellaauthor, who is the author of a great book called King of Clubs, the Great Golf Marathon of 1938. And, of course, the main character in it is J. Smith Ferebee, who was a stockbroker in Chicago. And we were just sort of discussing a little bit of the backstory and just a little bit about Mr. Ferebee's character and sort of why he was the way he was. And as Jim had indicated, a lot of this had to do with his upbringing. But it was just a very interesting story, and I wanted you to come on here and share a little bit of it. Obviously, I don't want you to give it all away because I want people to pick up a copy of the book. And Jim is very graciously is going to be sending me a few autographed copies in the next week. And when I get my hands on that, we're going to have a contest here on Golf Talk Live and give some of those copies away to some of our winners. And I strongly – the one nice thing I liked about it, too, is especially nowadays, what's really important, Jim, I think, you know, everybody's into their iPhones and iPads and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, people don't have time to read a great lengthy book. And the one nice thing about this is you very eloquently put the story in really a minimal amount of pages, but it's a very captivating story. I mean, some books you see in the bookstores, and they're about 3 or 4 inches thick, and they're very daunting to most people today, unless you're a diehard reader. And the nice thing about this is I think there's about 140 pages, I think, in the total, and that includes your notes and things like that, which are very interesting as well. I kind of snooped back in there, but I like the fact that it's a very easy read, but it's interesting. It keeps you captivated throughout the story, but it's not so the book is not so enormous that, you know, it's going to take you months to get through. And
well,
I really
very
like that.
reflective of my background as a 30-year newspaper man, in which words were at an economy. You wrote short, you wrote simply. You told the story, you got in and you got out, and one of the things that I'll confess, one of the things that a couple of publishers said to me in rejecting the book is, it's not long enough. And my retort to them would have been, it's long enough to tell the story and to tell the story in its entirety. And to my way of thinking, there's really very little, if anything, left to tell of the story. And if I can do it in 147 or 150 or 160 pages, that's just fine. The goal was to tell the story and to bring the story back to life after 75 years. You know, a lot of this was obscured by World War II. And whereas it might have been a story on par with some of the great sports stories of all time, quite honestly, when I contacted the relatives of everybody who was a member of Ferebee's entourage, no one had ever heard this before, with the possible with the notable exception of Fred Turk's son George, who used to tell me that his father would tell the story to everybody who came by the house, how he was the sucker that lost the unlosable bet. And so you know, I just wanted to tell the story, and I'm so grateful to Potomac Publishing in Dulles, Virginia, that they didn't get hung up on stuff like, well, how many pages is it? Is it thick enough? Just what you said. The guy got in, he told the story, he got out. It's a good story. It's well told. Let's take a chance. Let's buy the book. And I'm eternally grateful to those folks for having that kind of vision because it matched mine. Right.
And certainly kudos to them. Just a couple of things I wanted to mention on your behalf. Obviously, as you mentioned, this month represents the 75th anniversary of this extraordinary feat, King of Clubs, the great golf marathon in 1938. And it also won a 2012 Book of the Year from the International Network of Golf and was called by SI.com probably the best golf story that you've never heard. And you just recently also, you mentioned here, I was just reading through some of the notes, that it also won a bronze medal winner in the 2013 Reader's Favorite contest that you just found out just recently, correct?
Yeah, just Saturday night. Very proud of all of that. You know, I didn't set out to preserve golf history, but Gary Van Sickle from SI.com and after him, several other reviewers have really pointed out to me that another 10, 15, 20 years and this story would have been lost forever. And the gratitude that they have expressed about the fact that I took the time to tell the story is really gratifying. And again, I'm not going to put myself out there. I wanted to write a book. I wanted to make some money. I wanted to tell a story. No idea that I was preserving golf history at the time. That's a very, very pleasant added incentive, added bonus, and to have people recognize it is incredibly flattering.
Well, and as I said, one of the reasons, probably the main reason I really wanted to have you on here is I want to allow my listeners here at Golf Talk Live to, obviously, the main theme that's been here for some time in the last few months. We've had a lot of different teaching professionals now on here talking about not only their academies that they're running and things like that, but obviously very different aspects of the game. And obviously I've had a few of them come on here that have published books of their own, mainly in the instructional side or golf in general. And this was sort of a unique story that I had never heard of, and it just, as I said, it intrigued me. And when you sent me over a little bit of information about the history of the story and what was involved in it, I thought this is definitely something that I want to present to my listeners. And I'm going to make it available on the Golf Talk Live website. I'll give you an opportunity. You've sent me some information over, and I'm going to get that up this weekend with a link, which we'll give in just a second here, where people can pick up a copy of this book. And I want those that are not only listening to the program, but that obviously network with me on different social media to be able to have access and get a copy of this book. It's certainly, as I said, it's a great read so far. I haven't peeked into the whole thing yet, but I'm going to finish it this weekend for sure. I should, but anyway, it's only 150 pages, but I certainly have enjoyed what I've read so far, Jim, and I think it's, as I said, a very well-written book, and I wanted my listeners and audience to get a taste of that it's not always just about golf instruction and the tours and things like that, but these little jewels that sort of come about every once in a while, I like to present to the audience and let them be made aware of it, and I hope that you have much continued success with it, and I will do my part to help you get the word out.
Well, Ted, thank you very much. You're very generous with your time, and I know that your show hasn't been on the air for all that long compared to the history of radio, if you will, and I wish you all the best as well. It's been a real pleasure to be on the air and talk to you and to talk to your listeners.
Well, I appreciate it, and I know that they'll enjoy it as well. And as I said, I'm going to get that information up on the website this weekend. I'll get it posted up there so that people can know where to go. But let's just I'll let you sort of do the rundown. I know that you've told me where it's available. Where can somebody get a copy of the book?
Sure. In the Mid-Atlantic of the United States, it's available, or it should be available, at bricks and mortar Barnes & Noble's store. Of course, you can also order it through bricks and mortar Barnes & Noble's if they don't have it in stock. It's also available at Amazon.com, BN.com, as in BarnesandNoble.com. It is available in Kindle. It is available in Nook. And it's available through my publisher, www.PotomacBooksInc.com, and Potomac is Potomac, so www.PotomacBooksInc.com.
Well, that's fantastic, and I'm going to get, as I said to my listeners, I'm going to get that information up on the website so that they'll have it, and they can get a direct link right into either Amazon.com or some of the other, if they want to order it online, or as Jim has just mentioned, if you want to visit a Barnes & Noble and some of the other locations and you want to go in and purchase a copy, I strongly recommend it. It's as I said, a very, very, I can't emphasize enough, it's a very well-written book. I certainly enjoy, and I like this type of story. I mean, when you read a lot of the books that are out there now, and it just doesn't seem to have much sizzle to it, and this just had a very, I like the fact that that these two gentlemen that you had mentioned, obviously Mr. Ferebee being the main character in the book, rose to the challenge that his associate, or actually, I guess, really his competitor, because they were both stockbrokers, as I recall.
That's right.
And obviously he threw down the gauntlet, if you will, and Mr. Ferebee obviously rose to that challenge, and as I said, I don't know the ending yet. I suspect I know the ending, but I'm looking forward to reading the rest of the book. But Jim, I just want to take. Sorry, go ahead.
A couple surprises in the later chapters that I think there were people involved who didn't exactly have the noblest of intentions. Let's just put it that way.
Well, I'm sure there had to be something like that in there because nothing ever goes smooth, even back in 1938. But it's just, as I said, it's just a great story, and I wanted you to have that opportunity to come on here and talk about that and just make people aware of it, because I know that obviously I certainly don't know all the books out there, but I know that I had not heard this story before, and I find these types of human interest stories very entertaining, and I enjoy it. And the fact that it's based on a true story even makes it more interesting, as opposed to, it's fun to read fiction every once in a while, but if you read too much fiction, it just, it just doesn't seem to have the same appeal. And it's nice to get a story like this, as I said, that really addresses the spirit of adventure in an individual who is rose to that challenge. And I think it's going to be a great read, and I certainly wish you much continued success. And I'm glad that you were able to join me here tonight on Golf Talk Live.
Thanks, Ted. The pleasure was all mine. You take care of yourself.
You have a great evening, and I will talk to you soon. And as I said, I'll get the information up for you on the website this weekend.
All right, and I'll put those books in the mail to you ASAP.
Perfect. Thank you very much. You have a great weekend. I know that you're heading out of town this weekend for some family matters, and my thoughts and prayers are with you on that. And I will talk to you soon, Jim. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
All right, Ted, my pleasure. Take care.
All right, you too. Okay, so for those of you that are tuning in a little bit later, my special guest this evening was, first guest, was Mr. Jim Ducibella, who is the author of a really great book called King of Clubs, The Great Golf Marathon of 1938. And it's really about, as I said, it's a book about two gentlemen who were rivals, if you were, stockbrokers out of Chicago. Smith Ferebee was the principal character, who was given a challenge of playing 600 holes of golf over 4 days from Los Angeles, California, out through to New York. And he was provided, obviously, a plane a private plane was chartered and to get him to the different locations. And he played, on average, probably about 140 holes a day over the 4 days, and with really very little rest other than when he was on the plane. And the caveat, if you will, to this was the fact that obviously back then they didn't have the golf cart available, and so he had to walk or sprint, if you will, in some cases, I'm sure, between some of the holes. And he played from very early in the morning, as Jim had mentioned, at 5 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes ending up well into the wee hours of the night, or later hours of the night, rather, 10 or even, I think, 11 o'clock at night. So as much as I love golf, I don't think I could have risen to that challenge. I think the most I've played was 54 holes in a day, and believe you me, it took me about 2 or 3 days to recover after that, and that was 20 years ago. So I can just imagine, to play the amount of holes that he played, and for as many consecutive days. I'm going to be joined shortly by another guest this evening, and I'm just going to talk about a few things first. But my next guest runs as a co-founder and president of a business called In Your Face, and it's a product that I really found very interesting. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about it. I'm not going to get too much detail right now. She'll be joining us shortly. But she had contacted me through the various networks that I'm on here at Golf Talk Live, and wanted to introduce the product here. It's a very simple product, but has a lot of applications, and we're going to talk about that when she calls into the program shortly. But just to let you know some of the other guests that are going to be coming up, I got actually, I don't have my guest list here, so I guess I'm not going to be telling you some of the guests that I have coming up in the next couple of weeks. I'll have to find out what I did with my sheet. I must have set it aside somewhere. But anyways, I've got some great guests coming up. For those of you that are maybe new tuning into the program, one of the things that is great about blogtalkradio.com is all of the programs are automatically recorded. So even though you're listening to a live version right now, the program will be auto-recorded, and usually within about a half an hour or so after the program ends, everything is compiled, and it will become available at blogtalkradio.com. And the link, for those of you that want to pass it around, I know obviously if you're listening to the program, you know the link, but it's blogtalkradio.com/golftalklive. And if you want to call into the program and speak to either myself or my guest, and I didn't open that up in the beginning because I really wanted to let Jim talk about the book and didn't want to have really any interruptions, but The number is 646-716-4667. You can certainly call in to me, and if you have any questions about the program or upcoming guests. And as I said, I don't happen to have my sheet in front of me as far as the guests coming up in the weeks. Actually, I lie. I've got the sheet right here, so I'm going to read you some of the guests that are coming up. September 12th, which will be next Thursday, my guest will be Robert Foreman. He's going to be coming on and talking about golf fitness. He contacted me some time ago, and I was able to get him to come in here on the program for September 12th. So he's going to be talking about fitness. We obviously have talked a little bit about that in the past with another guest, but he wants to come in here and expand a little bit more on some of the areas about being golf ready and that sort of thing. And I've got him coming on the 12th of September. On September 19th, I've got a returning guest with some fellow friends of hers. I'm not going to tell you who they all are right now, but Nicole Weller is going to be coming back from Savannah, Georgia. She was actually my very first guest here on Golf Talk Live, and she's gathered up a group of favorites, some friends of hers in the golf business, and they're going to be joining us here on the 19th of September. And on the 26th, I've got another gentleman by the name of Dan Schauger. He is another teacher professional who studied under the Mike Austin golf swing. If you remember, I had a guest on a couple of months ago, actually when I was in San Antonio, Texas, on vacation, who came on the program and talked about that. He's also another student of the Mike Austin golf swing. So he's going to be coming on there on the 26th of September. And then October 3rd, I've got another PGA Master Professional, teacher professional, John Dunnigan, is going to be coming on the show, and he's the 2012 PGA Philadelphia Section Junior Golf Leader, as well as the 2008 PGA Philadelphia Section Teacher of the Year, and he's the Director of Coaching at the White Manor Country Club in Melbourne, Pennsylvania. So he's going to be joining us on October 3rd, and I've got some other guests who I'm not going to give out right now. I'm just firming up the dates. We're booking up very fast here, but just to let you know, if you're interested in coming on the program, if you're somebody in the golf business, whether you're a teaching professional or if you've got a book of interest like my guest Jim did this evening, and you want to come on and talk a little bit about it, you can certainly email me at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. That's my direct email for the program. I would certainly encourage you to do that. Or if you have any questions or comments about the program, maybe you've got somebody that you would like to have come on this program and you'd like to recommend that I get in touch with them, send me their name and if you have their contact information, or give them my email and have them contact me directly, and we'll see what we can do about getting them on the program. As I said to my guest this evening, Jim, I want to not just have just the teaching professionals on here, but also want to have some equipment people and so on and so forth, get them on the program and allow them to talk a little bit about what it is that what they do and how it can help the average golfer out there. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Marion is on the line here, so let me just bring her on. Good evening and welcome to Golf Talk Live.
Thanks, Ted. This is Marion, and thanks for having me on the show.
Not a problem. Let me just do the official. I needed to make sure because I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember the number, and I wanted to make sure before I officially introduced you. As I was just explaining to my audience, my second guest this evening is Marion Kohte, is the co-founder and president of In Your Face Viewbase, which is a product that I'm actually going to be featuring on our website this weekend. For those of you that are interested in purchasing it. And I'm going to let her do a little bit more of the talking as far as what the product is. But basically what it is it's a view base for your smartphone or iPhone that will attach to whether it be a desk, tabletop. You could actually even put it on a computer if you wanted, if you had a laptop you want to attach to the side. But obviously, being in the golf business, we want to make it available to those of you that golf and want to take your phone with you. And rather than having it slide around in the compartment on the golf cart or having to hold it in your hand or setting it on the seat, this is a great product for you can clamp it onto the golf cart and either have it there to use as your regular phone, or maybe if you're somebody that has a golf app that you want to have access to while you're playing your round of golf, or even GPS. A lot of people nowadays are using GPS. So let me bring on the show, I'll do a proper introduction here on Golf Talk Live. As I said, the co-founder and the president of In Your Face Viewbase, Marion Kohte. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Ted. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I'm very happy to have you on. We talked as well last evening, Marion and I, and told me a little bit about that. Let me just start off real quickly here. Just give them a little bit, the listeners here, a little bit of background, how you came about, and actually this was your husband, Hans, who actually came up with the idea, but just give us a little bit of background on how you and why you felt the need for this product.
Well, he bought an iPod, and he downloaded a 2-hour movie. And then we had a 10-hour drive, and I was taking my turn as the driver. So, of course, he figures, well, I got time. I have a 2-hour movie on my iPod. I'm going to watch it. So there he is trying to watch the movie, 2 hours, holding it from the right hand to the left hand to the right hand, and then he's trying to prop it up. And he's like, there's got to be a better way. So we're not, we've never really invented anything. We've had maybe thoughts of certain things, but never really planned it out and did it. So he went into the garage, like a lot of inventors do.
Right.
And he made up what he thought would be a good holder for the iPod that he had at the time. But now it fits all the smartphones as well.
Right.
And what it is it's that bottom 2-inch clamp that opens to 2 inches, and it's hinged, so you can attach it to a pole if you needed to, or around your surface. And then it has a flexible 8-inch neck, which brings the viewing in your face, hence the name. And then the top clamp opens up. It's spring-loaded. It opens up to 3 inches wide. So what a lot of people like about it is that you don't have to take your case off.
Right.
And then the fact that it goes from vertical to a horizontal because it's on a ball joint. So and now.
Sorry, and just to interrupt you real quick, it actually rotates, as I recall, actually 360 degrees, correct?
That's correct.
Right.
Yes.
Let me tell you one of the reasons what really and as I said, when I say simple, I don't mean it quite in the way it may sound, but it is a very simple product, but it has a multitude of uses. We're going to talk about a couple of them real quickly. But one of the reasons why I really liked this product is number one, it's very well made. Kudos to your husband for designing this and obviously coming up with the whole design of it and that. But what I liked about this from a golfing standpoint, and when you approached me about this, and this is obviously a market, I mean, you're in other markets with the product for other uses, but obviously you saw a big opportunity to get into the golf market. Everybody nowadays is carrying some sort of phone, whether it be an iPhone or smartphone, as you said, and they've got their little covers and they can attach to a belt. But one of the things that I've noticed, there's two really applications I see in the golf business, and number one is obviously to the general consumer that plays golf, to the average golfer out there that wants to, as I said, or as you had indicated, access different golf apps while they're playing. Maybe it's a teaching app, or maybe it's a GPS app, giving them all the important information. It's very cumbersome and very awkward to have this thing carried all the time and carried around.
Correct.
And one of the things that I like about this app, or this clamp rather, is the fact that they can attach it on the golf cart and still have, as you said, in your face. It's visual to them. It gives them the access to the phone, and without having to worry about it sliding through a tray or something or falling off the seat, worse off. And it keeps it protected. Right.
That's true. That is correct. Even people that use them at their desk, that keeps it up high so that what if you spill your coffee or whatever? I mean, how many times has a smartphone drowned in coffee? So,
yeah, I'm sure.
it has a purpose there as well. It keeps it out of the way, but yet in your face.
Well, and the other application I can see, there's also another product that you carry that will allow it to do this, essentially the same thing, but instead of clamping it onto an item, it actually attaches to a tripod. So the second application I can see for your other product is to teaching professionals such as myself that want to videotape, their customers or their clients' swings or what have you. One of the ideal applications for this is to be able to attach it to that tripod. And not that you can't hold a smartphone or an iPhone in your hand, but one of the issues that I've heard by a lot of people is, not everybody has a steady hand, number one. But also you can get different angles. Obviously, you can adjust your tripod and things like that. And you can take it with you on the practice range and allow your students to be able to be videotaped. And obviously, you can upload those videos directly to some of your programs that allow them to do video swing analysis. Right. So it has a great application for that as well.
And the other thing I was thinking, if the teacher wants to get in on the shot to teach them, then the student can then go back and see what the teacher actually showed them on the course, because he doesn't have to get and hold a camera. He can actually get in on the shot, and so they can both take a look, at what they did. That's what's good about the tripod mount, as well. And with that's it's the In Your Face tripod mount though, and the neck is a little bit small. It's about 5 inches, and it screws onto a standard tripod screw, which is 1/4 inch 20 thread, and so it nicely, smoothly screws right in. And then because of that flexible neck, and for the ball joint on the top, you can get all kinds of shots. You know what I mean?
Right, and as I said, that's one of the things that I really liked about it is the fact that you've come up with really a way of doing both markets. You're able to attract the average golfer who might want to purchase your In Your Face Viewbase so they can take it with them while they're playing, but you can also do the tripod mount for instructors. I mean, anybody can really buy either one of the products. But I can see applications for both ends of the spectrum. Yeah. So not only for the players, but also for the teaching professional could make use with this product. Now, as far as retail, exactly. And I can certainly see it. And I'm going to be promoting this in the weeks to come as well. And also, as I mentioned to the listeners a little bit earlier on, Marion, is we're going to have this up on the Golf Talk Live website, so that people can not only get back to your website, which will give them the information in a moment, but they can actually, we're looking at doing an affiliate program with you, so they can actually purchase it right while they're on our site as well. So
that's
so we're looking forward to do that. But it's a great product, and I just wanted to have you come on here for a few moments to talk about. So let's talk about, first off, where they can get them currently.
Well, you can always get them on our website, and that is theinyourface.com. That's THEInyourface.com. So you can always get it there. And then we have a few people on Amazon, eBay, and we also have a retailer. We have a Micro Center if anyone in the listening area is near a Micro Center store. So that's where we are, and we're always, available. If there's questions, you can always go on our website, go to info@theinyourface.com and ask away.
And
so we're always available, too.
And you have an email here, contact information if they want it, info@theinyourface.com. You're also on Facebook, The In Your Face, facebook.com/theinyourface, and also Twitter @The In Your Face. So there's lots of ways to get in touch with you. And I strongly urge my my listeners to visit the website and take a look. And as I said, I'm going to have it up this weekend. I will have all the information on there, so those that are going to be visiting the Golf Talk Live website can also get the information there. They can not only get a shot of what it looks like. Obviously, they can't see it over the radio here, but they'll be able to see what it looks like by either visiting your site or visiting the Golf Talk Live site. But they'll also be able to purchase one of the products there as well. And I want to thank you, Marion, for coming on to Golf Talk Live tonight and talking a little bit about the product. And it is really a great product. And I'm looking forward to helping you move it. Now, just one other thing that I wanted to ask you. Now, is it currently only available here in the United States, or are you able to?
We have have filled orders around the globe. I mean Antarctica, I mean soldiers in Iraq, Afghanistan. We have been all over England, Canada very definitely. And so, since our beginning in 2009, we have shipped all over. So we are available all around the world. And also, don't forget, you take it on the golf course, but unclamp it. Take it to the restaurant. I can't tell you how many times my husband, we've gone to have coffee or gone to a restaurant. He always brings his In Your Face, and that is always somebody comes over and says, "Where did you get that?" If you take it on a flight, you want to make a friend. That'll make you a friend. Hook this on a tray table and start watching your movie peacefully, and people are going to be saying, "Where'd you get that? Where'd you get that?"
Yeah,
so,
and that makes an that makes an interesting point. I mean, obviously we want to promote it, to the golfing audience here, but also it does have many applications. That's one of the nice things about it is it's not just for golf. Obviously, again, my audience is golf minded, if you will, and the instructors in that, but it can be used on airplanes. It can be used at your, if you want to take it to work. And everybody's looking for a hands-free, product right now because there's just, one of the nice things about working in the office and working on your computer and having this particular device, this product, is the fact that you're now hands-free to continue on. So if you're on a phone call with a client or so forth, you're able to continue doing things on the computer. Yeah. You're not trying to
you can put it on speaker and keep going.
Right.
That's right. Yes. So like we say on our website,
it has a multitude of applications.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
And I mean it's endless. So we certainly want the listeners, as I said, to have a look. As I said, I'll get it up this weekend, but in the meantime, if they're interested, they can visit your website, theinyourface.com. They can purchase it right from your website, as you said, and I will have all the contact information on there for them to be able to access that and find out where they can get it. And if they want to get an idea of what it looks like and so forth, as I said, they can visit your website or ours after this weekend. Anyways, Marion, I want to thank you very, very much for coming on Golf Talk Live this evening. And certainly welcome to come back.
Thanks for the opportunity.
And not a problem. I'm always glad to stand behind a product that I believe in. I think this is a great product. The In Your Face Viewbase is what we're talking about here, and definitely want to get. I know. Sorry, we were getting into it, and I think we got distracted here. What does it retail for? The Viewbase?
It's retail for $29.95.
Very good.
That's correct.
Very actually in line with what most products are out right now. So it's a very, very well price point for the product, and very, very sturdy as well. I as I said, Marion had sent me out a sample of it so I could have a look at it and check it out, and it's definitely very well built and very good design. So I think those of you that want to get your hands on one need to do so. It's definitely a great product. So Marion, again, thank you very, very much for coming on the program. When you add more products to your line, certainly come back again, and we'll talk about that. If you come up with a different design or some additional designs, we'll certainly have you back on the program. Thank you very much, Marion, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. All right, have a great evening. Bye-bye.
You too.
Okay, I'm just going to take a few moments to wrap up this evening, just to quickly go over the guests this evening. Obviously, I was just speaking with Marion Kohte, who is the co-founder and president of In Your Face Viewbase, which is a great product. And as I've said numerous times now, we are going to have that information available on our website. And I'm also going to be posting it through various social media sites that I'm on, Facebook and so on and so forth. And I will have that available so you can get your hot little hands on that. And as I said, it's very well price point. $29.95 is not a lot of money to spend these days for a product such as this. And as I said, it's very, very well built. And I'll be talking about it in the weeks to come as well. And we are going to get involved in a affiliate program with her company, so that we can make it available on our website for purchase as well. So for those of you that are visiting the Golf Talk Live website, you can get your hot little hands on one. I just want to thank my guests this evening, Jim Ducibella, the author of King of Clubs, the Great Golf Marathon of 1938. Again, that information will be up on the website as well after the weekend. Great book. Story that definitely needed to be told and certainly retold. And I want to thank Jim for coming on this evening to Golf Talk Live. And I will be returning again, of course, next Thursday with another great guest. So I want you to definitely tune back in for that. And also want a quick thank you again to my final guest this evening, Marion Kohte of In Your Face LLC. I just want to thank both of my guests again for coming on to the program. If you're interested in coming on the program, or you've got some topic ideas that you'd like to hear on Golf Talk Live, you can email me at ted.golftalklive.com. At gmail.com, ted.golftalklive@gmail.com, or you can call into the program at area code 646-716-4667. Certainly follow us on Facebook. It's facebook.com/golftalkliveblog, and certainly appreciate if you throw some likes there. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Ted and Buck CEO is my Twitter handle, so appreciate it if you follow me there. I want to thank you for tuning in this evening. I hope that you enjoyed the program this evening, and don't forget that shortly after it airs, it is auto-recorded, so for those of you that either tune in towards the end of the program and didn't get a chance to hear the earlier guest, you can visit blogtalkradio.com/golftalklive, and you can listen to the recorded version. Anyways, I want to thank, again, my guests this evening. I want to thank you for tuning in each and every week and supporting the program. And next week, I'm going to be, in addition to a new corporate sponsor, In Your Face, this evening, we have a main principal sponsor that's come on board, who I'm going to introduce next week as well. Very excited about that, and actually I have a couple of them that I'm going to introduce next week on the show. So you want to definitely come back next Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time here on Golf Talk Live. Again, one last time, I can't thank you enough for all the support that I've received from not only the listeners, but many of you on the different social networks that have been following me for some time now. All of your support, I really appreciate it very, very much, and I will continue to try and get some more interesting guests on here for you. And as I said, I'm always open to suggestions, and anybody that has a guest that they'd like to have come on the program, by all means, please email me at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com, and I will certainly do my best to get in touch with them and try and get them to come on the program. Thank you very much for tuning in this evening. I'll be back again next week, Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time here on blogtalkradio.com/golftalklive. Thank you very much, everybody. Good evening, and God bless.